Ta-da-ta-ta-da. All right, so we're gonna do the show, and I'm doing it solo today, talking about the Challenge All Stars, MTV by way of Paramount Plus. Obviously, I've been talking about enjoying Paramount Plus to the highest degree. I just like it. Like it's been a time of like catching up on Real World Homecoming, the series where they went back to New York City, and then also the old Real Worlds and seeing the difference. You know, the older seasons had a lot of texture, and the later seasons had a lot of hot tub. But it's still really cool, whether it's the hot tub or it's more of a storyline from the early seasons. It's good to see so much MTV, Real World, in any incarnation. I feel like this gives an opportunity to see different sides. So if you want to see the young, extreme, like the most difficult of difficult challenges, you go see the Challenge All Stars. I'm sorry, the Challenge regular season, season 36, the Double Agents. If you want to see more nostalgia, you come to All Stars. If you want to see Real World, taking it back, taking it old school, reminding you of the 90s, you go see Homecoming. So I say that all the time, but that's where my mindset is right now, thinking about like what I'm feeling about this episode, episode number 3, you know, getting into that hammer time situation. But before I even speak about the episode at hand, I feel compelled to speak about the music. Throughout the episode, obviously this is episode number 3 of the Challenge All Stars. We get Crystal Waters' 100% Pure Love, a song that I listen to all the time, still to this day. Madonna, Material Girl, of course referencing the time that Jemmy, Beth, like their connection. We have Joan Osborne, What If God Was One of Us, Extreme, Get the Funk Out, Sister Sledge, We Are Family, Boys to Men, Ooh Ah, because, you know, wouldn't be the Challenge House without ooh ah moments, and Eve 6, Inside Out. I really enjoyed it. The episode was good. We, of course, start off with the situation of Kendall. She won. And there's this thing that goes on where, you know, are people underestimated? I see it on a lot of other reality shows too, where it's like, oh, I'm underestimated and now I'm going to show them. And my only critique to that, while Kendall's lovely, she seems really warm-hearted and everything, is I just don't know in what regular normal human life, like if somebody underestimates me, aren't they just a cornball? Like that has nothing to do with me. And I see that as a something that's propped up in reality television a lot more now than ever before. I watch a lot of shows. I watch a lot of reality competition shows. And there's always this thing of like, well, they didn't think anything of me. Well, baby, you know, like, then show us. Like, you know what I mean? The concept that you're feeble and you're newer in a situation at hand, that really shouldn't be anyone else's problem. And if they don't believe in you, that's like, I don't know, maybe it's just edited that way, but it's something that I kind of feel a little silly about. But that's no knock on Kendall at all. I'm proud of her and I think she's a great player. And I think she's really just trying to assess how to make it happen in this new current situation. You know, challenges are so different now. And not just that, I mean, sometimes they reference it so many times, but it is the truth. You know, you do this once as a 20-something-year-old, and now you do it with kids, and you sort of want to have a, you know, you are aware of the edit, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So I'll go back and forth with what I feel about Kendall as this episode goes on, and whether or not she was being a little too much with the lifesaver, but that's not what I'm speaking about now. What I do want to speak about now is a little bit of this foreshadowing. You know, Hisela does have a confessional moment talking about like, oh, well, you know, she might be the type that's gunning for me, but we just don't know when that's going to happen. So I'm interested to see where that plays out. And with Kendall, because she's so sweet and so nice, she manages to have really great connections. I mean, already, if you're coming to this game and you played the game with Darrell, you know, years ago on Road Rules, I feel like that's so valuable. And I think one of the things in challenges and building alliances, especially within this season, the All-Stars, because it's not exactly the running game that's being played on the MTV series, you have a chance to establish these connections, you know, beyond. And sometimes, just sometimes, in my opinion only, I feel that if you like if somebody perceives like Kendall's rocking out with Darrell's such a strong player, like you're able to build out a bigger alliance just based on that structurally. I hope that made sense, but that's just something I've seen in regular life and I think would be valuable on the challenge. And that's just a further notch that Kendall, while she is a little quiet on occasions, structurally, I feel like a lot of people will want to work with her. So that's, good for her, and she won. And she should feel proud. She should feel proud. She should feel exciting because this is the Challenge All-Stars, baby. So let's talk about Cyrus and Beth, Nehemiah. Let's just talk about all these like nicknames and connections. So we have Beth kind of explaining that she is such a good friend to Jemmye. It's cool. I got no opposition to it. I mean, is Beth somebody, like, to me, when I do actually speak about Beth, I think, I say this all the time, Beth is as Beth as she's going to ever be. Beth is as Real World 92, 93, I think it was when it came out, the Venice season. She's as 93 Beth as she is now, and you love to see it. So if she finds a connection with Jemmye, I mean, I don't knock it. I know that there's an aspect that Jemmye sort of either plays too hard sometimes, or not even too hard, but she's too heavy in the confessionals. She kind of waves her finger like, she runs things and she doesn't really. But I'll get to that part later on in the episode, but I still think there's a value in Jemmye being excited to play, ambitious to play. And if she connects with Beth as like a Britney and Madonna situation, I guess that's okay. I was never a Britney person, but I go heavy in the paint for Madonna, so I think it was cool. It was cute, and of course we get the Madonna Material Girl song, so boom and boom, and it was definitely cool. So let's think about, we'll take a moment here and think about this challenge. This is the challenge that, I mean, obviously so many people are excited to see. I mean, the Ice Block Challenge is just known. I mean, I don't know how many times. I'd actually be curious, excuse me, I'd be curious to know within the editing of Boone and Murray, MTV, or even Paramount now, how many times this has been referenced, just because it is such a fun challenge. I think when I think of Ice Block Challenge, I think my mind immediately goes to the way the promo used to run back in the day when the actual first time they did this, or I don't know if it was the first, but one of the times they did it. And Adam, Adam from the Paris season, his little booty is just like going back and forth. It's just, it's classic challenge. It's great nostalgia, but you're real excited about it. And I've been kind of wondering, like, how do they choose these challenges? Because they obviously can't go to the level of, Challenge Double Agents season 36, or, going forward 37, 38, 39, whatever. They do have to be selective, and this one just couldn't be a better situation. As far as the teams, you've got the black team, Anissa, Derek, Janae, Latarian. You have the silver team, which is Kellyanne, Kendall, Darrell, and Cyrus. You've got the copper team, Nehemiah, Katie, Hisela. Who else was on that team? Why do I not remember who else was? Oh, was it Easy? I'm not really sure. Well, shows I didn't do my notes properly. How about that? On the gold team, you have Mark, Beth, Alton, and Jemmye. And then on the gray team, you have Tech, Ruthie, Arissa, and Yes. First of all, I feel like there's just so many players at this moment, so I'm excited to see everything get whittled down. But we'll talk about the challenge at hand. So this challenge is fun. I mean, I think obviously the highlight so far, well, I mean, they're all good, but I think Anissa is really, because one thing people will say about Anissa, even on the current seasons, the show that runs on MTV, is she's a confessional queen. Like, she does narrate really, really good. So obviously, both her voluptuous, beautifully, assessed body type, which I love, it makes sense for her to like roll this out. And I think everyone was fun within this, and all the different tactics and ideas. I don't know what would work for me. I also have that little voluptuous, midsection that I have to deal with. But I'm trying to figure out just strategically, and this is a question for everybody, what is strategically the best move? You have Cyrus talking about some people are using, spitting, or I think Darrell, urinated even. What is the best move for this? And also strategically, what's the best move in regards to, like, do you work on one side of the block of ice, or do you maneuver around the blocks of ice, block of ice? Like what is the smartest of moves? I don't know the answer to that. To me, I feel like within my body, I think I would probably be more in the vein of lying on it or sitting on it and sort of staying there. But I could be totally wrong, I could be wrong about the idea that the times that they do use spit or urination, maybe that does break down the ice a little bit better. So I guess you just gotta be very patient. I imagine they're all numb though. Their bodies are extremely numb. I don't know how much of a benefit it is when they are on top of each other, but it's still contributing to getting that ice block down, and they're trying to like break down that ice. And they're trying all these different tactics. So all the different tactics were fun. Kellyanne, of course, has her little moment. It's just a fun thing. Now, what ends up happening, though, is, and I wonder, this is my question. Maybe it's an obvious question, and forgive me for asking silly questions, but when TJ says, wait a minute, stop, it's hammer time, while they're trying to break down their blocks of ice, each respective of the 4 teams, my question is, was that intended? Like, was that one of it had to have been, right? Like, it couldn't be something that just like randomly, like, well, wait a minute. But then at the same time, is there a universe where the challenge is set up where they like are running out of time, or they're not getting any progress within said challenge? And maybe not for this challenge, but for all the challenges in general. I don't know the answer to that. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, when production is putting together the show, and I've worked on productions, and there's always a bit of a backup plan. So as silly as it is, my question is, does this show, was that always intended? I feel like it had to have been, but they just wanted to make it like, well, wait a minute, here's the hammer. Anyways, it's hammer time, boom and boom, who cares, right? So TJ makes the announcement, it's hammer time, baby. And it's interesting because it felt like, as a viewer, which I'm pretty sure it's way different when you're on set, not even on set, but you're competing. It felt as clear as day. Am I right? It felt as clear as day that, so clear as day. It felt as clear as day as that he said, listen, you could use the hammer, but don't mess up the, the medallion? Like, you can use the hammer to chip away, but you cannot create those, was it a medallion, an emblem? I don't know what you would call that. You just couldn't, that could not be touched. But then yet again, it turns out that does become a problem, which I was kind of a little shocked by. So you've got the gold team, which is Mark, Beth, Alton, and Jemmy. So in reality, they win, and again, seemed clear as day, but I guess they weren't too worthy as far as like watching out for that issue. And they did have some where the hammer or the ice broke into that medallion, and they necessarily didn't get the win. They had to get DQ'd. So the winner does turn into, the winner ends up being the other team. Well, certainly not Nehemiah's team. They struggled. Kellyanne, Kendall, Darrell, and Cyrus get the win. Of course, Cyrus is really excited about that. And that was cool because, you do have instructions, and if you don't oblige, you got to take the situation at hand. So, yeah, congrats to Kendall, Kellyanne, Darrell, and Cyrus. I love watching Cyrus play this game because he's excited. He gives a little bit of an animated character. He's one of my favorites thus far. Just his intensity. I like it when the people come to play, which kind of worries me about, like, Kendall and her wishy-washiness. No offense, but, like, I want people to really be in it to win it. So, I'll get to that in a moment. But, yeah, that's what happened. My question, though, is what do we feel about Big Easy sort of, kind of going back and forth? And I think Big Easy was making a bunch of comments, and Katie was like, he's a little much. I think one of the things, and this is a life thing, this has nothing to do with the challenge, it's maybe even something I know and learn, is when you do, and I think Jimmy made this commentary too in the confessional, like, I know them all because I play the game the most. And that is good, but the reality is sometimes you are able to put your emotion too much into it, that it does impede on your judgment of the, what you actually know. I know it from my own experience, you know what I mean? Like, I have a stellar memory, but anytime I talk about something that's so passionate to me, I can end up speaking to emotion, and I can misbalance and misarticulate what it is that I'm trying to say. or as far as remembering things too. And I think that's maybe what had happened. So, and you saw it with a lot of people. You saw, I think Anissa was probably pretty bold. I think Jemmy was pretty bold. I think Big Easy was pretty bold, and they were doing it in this vein of like, well, I know it because I remember, But what's funny is obviously we don't see the full edit, but we don't see Darrell saying, well, I've been playing the game a bunch. I could reference it more. So what I'm saying simply is sometimes when your emotion gets too big into it, you're not able to remember properly. And you did see Big Easy, not only he threw something, which, being frustrated, I guess is fine, but you don't want to have poor sportsmanship. But when he was arguing, the key thing for me, the one little red flag that I had caught was that he said, well, this, and this, because, I know because it didn't happen till I was there. And it's like, okay, explain it to these people. But when you make it emotional based on like, you saying I'm for sure because of it turns into an I thing. And when you're playing a game, you can't have an I thing. Now, listen, I'm not the most sportsmanship person. I suffer these problems as well. I get emotional when I'm talking that shit. And so I also know the difference between maybe taking a beat and saying, well, I remember coming into the challenge at this time, which would indicate that this would be this. And then you can, speak with your other people on your team and you can ask them, like, oh, well, do you reference that? And, oh, okay, I remember this in this year. Like, it just makes more sense than like having this high and mighty. I understand they have to be quick, but it makes more sense than having this high and mighty, like, well, I know because I was there. Like, that ain't gonna do good for anybody. But anyways, Big Easy did not win, and that's just what had happened. What also had happened, on a playful note, I was thinking back recently about the Real World Hawaii, and I was saying that while it was one of the bigger seasons that sort of like ushered in a new type of Real World, season number 8, I believe it was, yes, because number 9 was New Orleans, and number 10 was back to New York. I remember at the time it ushered in this whole audience. I remember skipping through it. It was whatever. Yes, there was some Colin and Amaya situations. Yes, there was Ruthie with the the drinking issues, very serious issues, of course. And there was the naked in the pool. But I don't remember there being great story within Hawaii. So I actually don't think of Hawaii as a great season, which I know it's deemed as a great season. But I do think Tech is funny. So Tech mouthing off and being funny, I had no problem with it. And I also thought Nehemiah played it well too, and I think later on Nehemiah talks with Mark and it's like, well, I was okay with, light banter, like talk a little shit, but like, easy now. And I'll have to put you up. I'll have to send your ass home, but I guess what I'm saying is, everyone has their different version of how they want to play. Some people want to like amp it up, like Cyrus is in it to win it, and he's also like a bit of a character, which I love. It's like he's here for it. Kendall's like very like relating to how she looks to her children. Everyone's gonna do it differently. The way Tech did it was differently, but I didn't mind it. So that was cool. It was just to be annoying to Nehemiah. And Nehemiah was, of course, the person we'd be thinking about as far as going up because of the way the game was set up. So what else do we have after Tech mouths off to Nehemiah? Jemmy, so then we get to nominations and there is really no ceremony. I guess they're all ready to go to dinner because, and they're tired. And so Tech just is like, I'll take it because he felt like he was going to be nominated. There's two trains of thought. I personally didn't mind Jemmy saying, I kind of hate when people just do that. Because I can see that too. I do like, I don't know how to state it. I don't like it necessarily to be phoned in. It just sort of takes away from strategy. But the other way, well, it doesn't take away from strategy. I'm having a hard time articulating it, but I did not mind Jemmy saying like, come on, let's play the game. But it's maybe easier for her to say because it was a male elimination. But I do like when we're all here to play. I don't necessarily like when we're just like, well, I'll do it, et cetera, done, let's go. So I can see the side of Jemmy being like, oh, come on. But anyways, she said what she said. Moving on. 90s party. And the 90s party really just turned into a moment where Kendall sort of was trying to assess what she could do with the lifesaver. I was calling it a lightsaber. I suppose that's from Star Wars. I've never seen Star Wars. How about that? So the lifesaver, which I think is a bit corny. I know a lot of challenge fans don't necessarily think that. And I say this all the time. It's one of the reasons I have a problem with the regular challenge, which I don't mind. I like the show a lot, but I don't like when we throw all these extra things. Like, I think at the core, jealousy and competition and strategy and all of these things will always make great television. So when you add all these other things and then you're like, oh, she doesn't know if she uses the lightsaber, if that will deem that she now has to put someone else up, which is very much reminiscent of Big Brother. And I've said this to Big Brother too, because I love the series Big Brother, but I always say, let it be at the core. This is just my opinion. Other people think they love all of these things, but when you add all of these extra things that could possibly send this and could change this and make somebody be backdoored, etc., etc., it becomes too much. And I swear to you, in my opinion of opinions, you already have enough, as I said, strategy, jealousy, competition, maneuverability, how you want to be edited on television even. There's so much already there. So I don't think you need these extra things to cause extra issues. But with that being said, Kendall she did try to see kind of what was going on as far as like, well, if I use it to take you off Tech, or if I use it to take you off Nehemiah, what can that do? Now, if she was playing Big Brother, that does make a lot of sense, because with Big Brother, they do a lot of that, well, if I do this for you, can you ensure me safety for the following week? So I don't knock her for trying different little things. I do think there was some people, I think Darrell even made a confessional comment where he was like, oh, she basically was making it hot. Like, slow down, Kendall. Like, if you're going to use it, you got to use it, but don't like telegraph it too much. And I think Kellyanne kind of was like, yo, talk a little quieter. So I don't blame Kendall. Like I said, with Kendall, she's great. And I just worry about her being a bit feeble for this competition, but now I'll say that, and I'll say that wholeheartedly. Like, is she a bit feeble for this version of the competition? But another train of thought, which is actually really smart, is some of these competitors are really just trying to understand the new way that this game is played, the new way television is even edited, the new way the alliances might be deeper and you might not even know about it. Back in the day when these people did challenges, there wasn't even really social media outside of Friendster. You know what I mean? Twitter didn't come out till like 2008. So they don't know necessarily what I don't know. There's just a lot of changes, and while it's easy to sit on your high horse and be like, "Oh, Kendall, you're being a bit feeble with this situation," it's hard. So I give her credit on that. With that being said, there did get little bits of conversation of like, well, if one of them comes off, who will come on? And I guess like Easy sort of feels a bit worried, which makes sense. I don't know that he has huge connections. I think historically on this show, he's been labeled as somebody who, didn't finish a challenge, or what I can't remember which challenge it was, but it was the one where he did kind of gas out. And I know he had his redemption moment where he came back to one of the challenges and lost a bunch of weight and was more physically fit. So I think that kind of just always sticks with him. So of course he would be potentially nominated. Do I feel like Jemmy got too in everyone's business? I personally don't. But I know that she, of course, is there. She, of course, has something to say. And, maybe that will be detrimental to her long term. I don't know. But on the flip side of it, maybe Jemmy does talk a lot. And I like Jemmy, but maybe she does talk a lot because she actually does have all these big alliances. Maybe she does have, Beth, and of course she has Nehemiah. Now, Nehemiah makes the point that aligning a bit with Jemmy is important because Jemmy is really connected within the house. And when Nehemiah played this game before, it wasn't as necessary. So, there is some train of thought that will say Jemmy is maybe as bold as she is, not because she's competitive and not because, she's competitive, but not because she's successful challenge-wise, but she's successful with a little bit of the pulling of strings within the house. But, here's the thing. I mean, whether or not, however Nehemiah and Jemmy have to calculate it, sometimes you just want that warm body, you know what I mean? You want to get that little cuddle situation. And so however and why ever they did what they did with again, the Ooh Ah Boys to Men song, it worked. Sometimes here's the thing, like I've been on a couple reality like episodes. I've never done a full-on series, but the challenge and the challenge, no pun intended, and the stress, sometimes you're just looking for that warm body. So I thought it was cute. And you know, they do something for each other. I've been enjoying Nehemiah's gameplay, and I also don't have a problem with Jemmy as well, even though she talks quite a bit. Can we speak about Ruthie within Anissa? I guess what's good about this, on the episode at hand, we didn't really get a lot. If you remember from the next on, like what's coming up next from season 2 into 3, it felt like there was some dialogue that we didn't get that actually aired in season 3, episode 3. So I'm wondering, like, what's more to the story? It sometimes feels like it could be like one of these, like, oh, well, remember in this challenge this happened, and they certainly did the flashback. But sometimes I wonder if it's more. You know what I mean? I think about the time with, like, Veronica. Like, well, did Veronica have something with somebody, but it really was based on, like, a thing that no one knew about, as far as, like, a little romantic, you know, situation? So, and there's no insinuation saying Anissa and Ruthie had any interest, but I'm saying the concept of, was it just challenge related from back in the day, and like, oh, we have bad blood? Like, no, like, that seems corny to me. To me, it seems corny. It seems like I got so many people that I've worked with on projects, you know, within the world of radio, but like, if I had to be like resituated with them, like I'm gonna think I think I'm gonna think of them as a cornball, and that's just gonna kind of be it. And I'm not gonna necessarily be like, well, remember in 2000 and whatever, like, you did this. So I don't think that that's it. Now, I will say that since I love Anissa so much, it's going to be more of a, you know, not necessarily taking Ruthie's side. And I think the sentence that I don't like in reality TV in general, I'm willing to be proven wrong on this, but a reality TV moments that I don't enjoy is, now, if Ruthie has an issue, let's hear what it is. But when she simply says, oh, I don't, you know, I'm not going to be bowing down to her, and Anissa sort of runs things, and like, I'm going to let her know, and I'm not afraid of her. Okay, well, Anissa didn't ask you to be afraid. That's number one. Number two, you mentioned the thing that I just personally don't like. This is a Ronnie thing. This is what I don't like. When she said, oh, well, I speak and she ignores me. Ruthie, I'm sorry. In life, people are going to ignore you. Like, this is just what it is. Like, people are going to ignore you. Like, I for reality television's sake, and again, I always relate the stuff in the version of what I've done creatively, which has always been like radio and television projects. Like, I could tell you the amount of times people have just done what they've done. I don't, that's not enough, is all I'm saying. So Ruthie, while you're a queen and you're beautiful and you're such, you know, so fierce, I don't, in my opinion of opinions, this is why I'd like to know more. I don't think it's enough to make Anissa the bad guy because Anissa didn't skip to Malou. Like, Anissa didn't, like, just be, you know, your thing is you felt ignored. Well, then, sorry, like that does happen, and you're not in the inner circle. The problem with Ruthie is she exploded on the scene when she first did the show. You know, she did Hawaii, and she was really like the it girl. And maybe as time goes on, maybe she's not as big in the house, you know. A lot of these players were so big in the not in the house, but big for like MTV back in the day. So they're probably getting this weird dose of like new reality where, you know, Trishelle, like, there was a moment, I swear there was a moment where Trishelle was like the hottest thing moving on, you know, early mid to late 2000s reality television, you know, like a Coral type, you know, who I love, which I need Coral to be on the second season. That's just a side note. So things change. So I think it might have been more so to do with that. And I just love Anissa so much. So I'm wondering, but there's different trains of thought. Other people could think differently. Maybe I'm not seeing something, which is why I mentioned it early on, which I said, in the next on from episode 2 to episode 3, there was different bits of dialogue, but we didn't see that in episode 3. I don't know why, so I'm wondering if there's more to it. But if it's simply she's not paying attention to you, lots of people don't pay attention to you. I mean, to anybody. You know what I mean? People don't pay attention to somebody. That is not a reason to like have an issue. Like, you got to be grown. Like, you as a human got to be grown. People don't pay attention to me all the time. Like, sucks to be them. You know, you have to have that attitude, unfortunately, or whatever. Moving on, let's talk about the elimination. But I do want to see more with Anissa. I want to see what's going on with that. I want to see Ruthie. I want to see what her issue is. And now she doesn't have tech, so we'll see what happens. Elimination. So this elimination seems cool. It's going to be Nehemiah versus Tech Money. But it seems very like who could be the quickest. They're basically having to knock out these triangular triangular, it's like on this apparatus, and they have to like knock out their colors, which seems fun to watch regardless. But why not add it a little extra? And so TJ decides to do where they had to basically eat 2 of these hot chilies. Me personally, I was like, from the couch watching, devastated, because I am not for the spicy stuff. And more so, I'm more like, if you do the spicy stuff, how much it impairs your mental well-being, or even your competitive well-being. So I'm not one of these people who watched on the couch and was like, oh my God, I mean, just eat the spice and then keep it pushing. No. And I watched this show. I mean, I used to work, for a brief moment, I worked at Complex Media, and they did the show with the somewhat of a uninteresting, uncompelling host. Anyways, he did the hot wing show. And so the talent would have to eat the hot wings. That was a minor diss, just because corniness is corniness, right? But moving on. So the celebrities would have to eat hot wings. And so the idea is, we feel like we can do all of these things, but the reality is, once you start eating the hot stuff, the spicy stuff, you do mentally get thrown off. So I thought it was a cool challenge. TJ laughing at everybody. I feel like there's going to be a moment where I'm like, oh, TJ, stop laughing at everybody. But this was not that moment. This was fun. The challenge was great. I feel like Tech almost won even. But I've also enjoyed Nehemiah. I feel like he has an agenda to try to raise his status in this game. And as I said earlier, now him being against Tech's not the most competitive, so maybe he doesn't have to be very I'm elevating to a higher status, but I still love that he's trying. You see what I'm saying? Nehemiah is making the effort, and that's that I enjoy. He's making the effort to want to get on that higher level. Now Tech is not necessarily going to be somebody who's going to usher that in for you, but it's still a great challenge. I still like the way they both competed, and I almost wanted to see a double save. I don't know, do they do double saves on the challenge? I feel like maybe that could be something in the long term, like save them both, because it was a fun watch. To me, it was a fun watch. It wasn't the most elaborate challenge, but I still enjoyed it, and that's just that. So that wraps up episode number 3. I believe we have 9 episodes slated in the Challenge All-Stars. I'm already and I've seen on Twitter, people are tweeting about hopefully there's another season. And yes, I hope there's another season. And, who would you want to be on that next season? I know it's maybe challenge-wise and athleticism-wise and where her head is at. Maybe she don't want to do this show ever. But I need some Coral on my television. Coral from Back to New York is the queen, the icon. So I just like it. I just like it. It's not saying I don't like challenge Double Agents, the MTV version, but I love what's going on here. And more than that, as I opened up the show here, I said I like that we've got to see old Real World, we got to see the new challenge, and we got to see the Challenge All-Stars. So MTV, by way of Paramount, has given you a lots of stuff, and hopefully the Paramount Plus membership that is being purchased is valuable to everybody. I know the TV show Younger, which was on TV Land, is also on Paramount Plus, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So this is great. What's going to happen next? I don't know. I mean, of course, people are wondering what's up with Arissa, because Arissa was the one who she stopped down during the challenge to do the Kumbaya moment, which I thought was also cool, but in a competition, that's not going to go long term, right? So we'll see what's going to happen next. I actually ran into Arissa at a gas station years ago in Las Vegas when I lived in Las Vegas doing radio. Was potentially going to book her for an interview, but it didn't work out. But Arissa, to me, is cool, Now, does that mean she's great for this show in a competitive nature? Maybe not, but who knows where her mind's at. Maybe her mind is in a very spiritual place, and I have no problem. I feel like some fans are very unless they're ready to rip someone's head off, they shouldn't come to the challenge. I think the challenge is great, and we saw that with Big T on the other series. The challenge is great because, yes, you should always have a challenger that's let's say a CT of the regular season. I thought Emily from Real World DC was always just a super competitor. So I do think that the show should have a lot of that. But I don't have a problem. Maybe I'm alone in this thought. I don't have a problem with a go-getter who's maybe not the best competitively, but is really there to show up and is using their other skill sets and their other assets. I mean, let's let Jemmy tell it. She's already in the bedroom with Nehemiah, so use what you got, I suppose. I'd probably do the same. So it is what it is. But with that being said, I am looking forward to seeing what happens with Larissa. Obviously, when you telegraph the show from the early on, you're like, oh, she's probably not the most competitive, but let's see what she has to offer. Let's see what she has to talk about. I loved her on the Las Vegas season. I did enjoy her, so I'm interested to see where she's at. And I was a little disappointed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt like she didn't get an intro. She got her early confessionals, but when they were doing the intro on the very first challenge, they didn't really give a like, oh, I'm Marissa, I was on Las Vegas, I still stay in touch with Alton, or I don't stay in touch with Alton, and this is where my life is at, this is my priorities. We don't know nothing about her. Really, we really don't know too much about her. But I'm excited to see who she has bonds with, who she has connections with, and it's a game. Not everyone will win, and we'll have another eliminated cast member. And Challenge All-Stars, man, I enjoy it. Little old me, Ronnie, I enjoy it. It's great. It's of my age bracket. And honestly, it's time for me to shut up. Another random recap. I am Randomly Ronnie Jr. Go to randomlyronniejr.com to see all the library of content that is out there. Very much in the pop culture vein. And we'll be back for the following episode with a guest co-host, which will be fun because we've got some fun co-hosts on deck. But that's it for now, and have a good one. Challenge All-Stars, episode number 3, season 1, and I'm out of here.